In a world convinced that worth is determined by wealth, by power, by the ability to make a profit, we gather this morning in the name of a deeper truth, that all are worthy, that all are precious, all deserve lives of dignity and joy, rest and fulfillment, simply because we were born. Spirit of life, this Labor Day weekend, draw us away from the idol of productivity and all systems that sacrifice the lives of many for the comfort of a few. Let all who are tired, all who are heavy laden, all who feel burned out because the world treats people like things, find their spirits rekindled in your vision of a world where prosperity isn't determined by who has the most, but by the well-being of those who have the least. May all that makes us grateful, all that gives us courage, all that moves our hearts to take action for change be in us and with us. Come and let us worship together. Our opening hymn this morning is Spanish folk tune, De Colores, and many of you may be aware of it, mostly because of its association with the United Farm Workers. Today, of course, is a Labor Day service, and so De Colores became the anthem of the United Farm Workers Union. But it's also a song about recognizing the beauty in the world, which is our theme for this month, beauty. So I figured it was a good fit this morning. So I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. It's number 305 in the gray hymnals. We'll sing, if you're following along in the hymnals, we'll sing the first verse will be the Spanish verse. Then we'll sing the first two English verses and then finish with the Spanish verse. If all of that is too confusing, the words are on the screen. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de fuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. All the colors, yes, the colors we see in the springtime with all of its flowers. All the colors, when the sunlight shines out through a rift in the cloud and it showers. All the colors, all the rainbow appears when a storm cloud is touched by the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors, yes, the colors of people parading on by with their banners. All the colors, yes, the colors of pennants and streamers and plumes and bandanas. All the colors, yes, the colors of people now taking their place in the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores ese es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Actually, no, I invite you to remain standing. I'm getting ahead of myself as we light our chalice and then say our covenant words. This morning to light our chalice is Jeremy Pace, who this morning is lighting it in honor of his fiancée, Lucas Tonoko, who this past week celebrated both his 40th birthday and 1 year of sobriety.
Honoring Our Labors by Florence Kaplow. In recognition of Labor Day, we light this flame to honor all work, including the work of our hands and our backs, in gratitude for all the labors that support our world, and for those who boldly continue to work for justice, equity, and peace.
Please join now in saying our covenant words, first in English, then in Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto.
Now you may be seated.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Labor Day weekend, and welcome to the weekly worship service of Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Todd Covert, and it is my privilege to serve as worship associate this morning. I use he and him as my pronouns. And one further bit of housekeeping before we go further, please be sure to silence your electronic devices before we continue. Thank you. Emerson has been a welcoming congregation, offering a home for open and inclusive spiritual inquiry in the West San Fernando Valley since 1954. We are proud to be part of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which centers love at the core of a commitment to justice, equity, compassion, and a respect for the interdependence of all beings in the cosmos. Here at Emerson, we invite you to bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive spirit. Let us begin our worship today by acknowledging that this is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tataviam, Chumash, Tongva, and Quiche peoples. The forces of colonialism and imperialism and racism stole these lands and suppressed the languages and cultural traditions of those who lived here. We commit ourselves to honoring their elders, past, present, and future, for they hold the memories, the traditions, and the enduring culture of the area, and the hopes for the restoration of all that cultural heritage in the years to come. We're gathered today for worship both in our physical sanctuary in Canoga Park and virtually via Zoom. To our members and friends joining us in both spaces, I extend a welcome and a thank you for your ongoing fellowship and support. This beloved community would be less without any single one of you, and your presence is deeply felt and appreciated. If you're new to Emerson, here or online, hope you find this service both spiritually and intellectually engaging, and that you feel truly welcomed here. We encourage you to sign either our guest book in the foyer or our virtual guest book linked from the chat and Zoom, so that you can sign up to receive our weekly service announcements and other information about Emerson program offerings, both in person and online. Also, in the Zoom chat, there should be a link to our virtual Book of Life, where you can share any joy or concern that you'd like to be shared amongst the congregation during our embracing meditation. And as always, those of you here in the sanctuary can write a joy or concern in our physical Book of Life, which is just beyond our music director, Kevin Matthey, at the piano. If you'd like to get to know us better, please join us physically for a coffee hour in our pavilion to my right, your left, behind the sliding doors after the service. And those of you on Zoom can join in a virtual coffee hour in breakout rooms. Today's service acknowledges and celebrates Labor Day. I'm proud to have been a member of a Hollywood union, the Directors Guild of America, since 1996, as my father before me was a lifelong member of the American Federation of Musicians. And I now find myself in a two-union household, as my girlfriend, Deb, an employee of one of the organized Costco locations here in California, is a newly minted member of the Teamsters. As a retired member of the DGA, I'm keenly aware and deeply interested in the progress of the labor actions by the Writers Guild and Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, against the Hollywood producers. I note that my own guild, the Directors Guild, had an uneventful negotiation of a very far-reaching and complex agreement this year. And there I am reminded that not all workers enjoy the same status in the entertainment industry. Studio executives, I've always felt, perceive Directors Guild members, like myself, as part of management, their representation by a collective bargaining unit notwithstanding. As I've often said over the years, most of the time in contract negotiations, the Directors Guild is negotiating pretty much with itself. And so while I celebrate the importance of the union I've belonged to since the 90s carrying off successful and consequential negotiations, I stand in support of the more uphill struggles faced by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. Path of labor in our free market capitalist society is never easy, always important, and I hope you find it worthy of your support. So now, before I turn the pulpit over to Reverend Matthew for a story for all ages, let's take a moment to greet our neighbors in a spirit of fellowship, and feel free to use this opportunity to share a joy or concern in the Book of Life. Please feel free to greet your neighbors. Thank you for the
Unless I really know. I've seen the song and all I have is
Yes. Yes, I am.
So, this morning, in honor of Labor Day, we have a story about workers, a particular type of workers, and these would be worker bees. That's called Bee Strike, and it's by Aaron McHale. There once was a president whose favorite thing in the whole wide world was peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches, which he called PBB&H for short. He had eaten them since boyhood, but in those days his parents used to make him eat other things too, like broccoli. On the day he became president, he said to his mother, his father, and all of his advisors, "I will not eat broccoli. I am the president, and I will eat whatever I please, and I wish to eat PBB&H sandwiches." Less than a month later, the president's chef had a nervous breakdown from making nothing but peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches all day long. So the president had a bunch of engineers from NASA design a special robot to make PBB&H sandwiches just the way the president liked them. Soon, peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches were a national craze. In magazines and on YouTube, sports stars and supermodels and pop stars were captured mid-PBB&H, grinning at the camera with their faces full of peanut butter and their fingers sticky with honey. Once the president and the celebrities started doing it, then everybody in America started doing it. But there was one really big problem. Those hardworking bees just couldn't make enough honey for everybody to eat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches every day. And when the bees complained, the president just demanded that they work harder. So they worked in shifts around the clock, and they closed all of the bee schools so that the little kid bees could work in the honey factories too. They got rid of weekends, so there were no more Saturday morning cartoons or bumblebee soccer leagues. And to make room for more honey, the bees were forced to exile all those who were too old or sick to work. But no matter what they tried, and no matter what new strict rules the president made, the bees simply could not make enough honey for all of those sandwiches. Well, one day, a worker bee named Caesar decided that enough was enough and called a meeting of his hive. Hovering up in the air where the bees could see him, he said, "This is no good, my friends. We cannot go on like this. We deserve better. We deserve to send our children to school, to go to the doctor when we get sick, and to have some time to relax and be with our families. It's time for everyone to stop taking us for granted and to start treating us with the respect we deserve." The bees buzzed very loudly, which is how bees cheer. And they started to put Caesar's plan into action. The first thing they did was stop making honey. Every bee in the hive simply flew off the assembly line. Other bees flew to the other hives, and soon all of those hives had stopped working too. And right about the same time, the president received a strange postcard in the mail. On one side was a list of all the bees' demands: health care, education, better working conditions, vacation time, and so on. And on the other side was a picture of a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich with a big red X through it. The president was furious. He sent soldiers to take over the hives and force the bees back to work. But the bee lookout saw the soldiers coming, and by the time the soldiers had surrounded the hives, all the bees were gone. The people tried to go on eating, as they always had, but it was getting harder to find honey anywhere. Everyone was upset, and celebrities were photographed throwing tantrums at expensive restaurants because there was no honey on the menu. Now, the president, being rich and powerful, had honey for a while, long after everyone else had run out. Eventually, though, even the giant White House honey pot was empty. But the president was not ready to give in to the bees' demands. Then, one night, the president came home after a really bad day, during which the president of France had made fun of his new suit, and the premier of Uzbekistan refused to let him use their country as a landfill, and the king of Sardinia called him a creep. Whenever the president had a terrible day like this one, the only thing that made him feel better was a triple stack of 3 fat peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches piled one on top of the other. But alas, there was no honey. The president raged. He bellowed. He threatened. He even held his breath until his face turned purple. Still, no honey appeared. Finally, he broke down and wept right there in the Oval Office. "Fine, I give up," he sobbed, blowing his nose into the curtains. "Get Caesar the bee on the phone right away. Tell them they've won. They can have their stupid weekends. They can have their dang health care and their precious schools. They can even have some seasons off every year. Let them have whatever they need, but get me a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich right now." And so it was that just a few hours later, photographers crowded and jostled to snap the now famous photograph of the President of the United States shaking forelegs with Caesar the bee. Caesar smiled at the cameras and said, "This is a small step for one bee, but a giant step for all bee kind." And that is why bees only work during certain seasons. It's also why peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches are not as popular as they once were, now being only served on the most special of occasions. The end. Now, obviously, that was a little bit of a funny story, but that story of the bees and, of course, the bee who led the uprising has the same name as Cesar Chavez, who was the head of the United Farm Workers Labor Union and worked for people, who were also working out in the fields and made sure they got rights and protections. And so that's the story of how of Labor Day, which is what we're celebrating today, of the power of workers to go on strike, to stop working, and make demands for better conditions for workers. And so that's what we're celebrating today. And now I invite you to join me in saying our Unitarian Universalist affirmation. You can join me in the hand signals. If you don't know them, they're very easy to pick up. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands.
Each week, in support of the work of this beloved community, we take up an offering in a worshipful spirit collectively to provide that support. And as part of our commitment to serve our community, we share half of that offering with local organizations whose work furthers our mission. This month, our Share the Plate offering supports Haven Hills. Since 1977, Haven Hills has lifted up survivors of domestic violence to transform their lives. We offer shelter, crisis intervention, counseling, advocacy, and activity supporting increased economic opportunity for over 2,500 women and men each year. In doing so, Haven Hills helps survivors of domestic violence find the strength within themselves to break the cycle of abuse and build a new, productive, and joyful life for themselves and for their children. Donations can be made via the Breeze app, if you've downloaded that, or on our website at donate.emersonuuc.org. You can make out checks and send them to the address on the website, made out to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church, or just EUUC, or Emerson UUC. Write Share the Plate in the memo. If you were making a pledge offering, please write pledge in the memo. And at this time, I'll ask the ushers to come around and take up this week's collection.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Each week, we take time in our service to lift up the joys and sorrows from within our community and in the wider world. As I check our virtual book of life, yes. This week in our virtual book of life, Nicole writes, "A joy, so happy to share this communal celebration of labor with a day of rest, and a sorrow for I feel for all our labor siblings struggling with contract negotiations in a society of capitalism that puts profit before people." And Jim Wallace, who writes, "Sorrow. Growing up in Florida, we lost the laid-back laureate of Florida this week, and a joy and all the lighthearted joy that Jimmy Buffett brought to the world. I hope he is kicked back in his flip-flops on a beach somewhere. And speaking of Florida, our hearts go out to those who have been impacted by Hurricane Idalia, which has caused a significant amount of disruption and upended the lives of tens of thousands, leaving many people without homes, and still finding gratitude that the destruction was not worse as it moved through areas of lower populations. Holding in our hearts still that fear, that worry, that rebuilding that so many of us grapple with these days as occasions, events of extreme weather become all the more frequent. In a moment, I'm going to sound this singing bowl, and after I do, I invite you to speak into the space or type into the chat, for those of you online, any joys or sorrows, any names or occasions that are on your heart this morning and that you would like lifted up into this community in this our embracing meditation. Matt and Brandon and Tim. All that has been shared and all that we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, we offer these into the embrace of this beloved community. Service this morning, of course, is about Labor Day, but it's also about rest. And whoever is listening to me on Zoom, I can hear the echo. So I invite you to join in singing this song, Loosen, Loosen. There are two parts. We'll sing the first part, and then we'll sing the second part, and then you can pick whichever part you like to sing. They both go together. And then we'll end back with the first part. So it goes like this. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your mind. muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Sing that. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. One more time. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Sing that. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? One more time. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? So sing whichever one you like. Holy breath and holy name,
the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go,
this
let
pain?
go. Loosen, loosen, baby.
And
You don't
holy
have to
name,
carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby.
and
You don't
holy
have to
name,
carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby.
and
You don't have
holy
to carry the weight of the world in your muscles
ease,
and bones.
will
Let
you
go,
ease
let go,
this
let
pain?
go.
Loosen, loosen,
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
One more time.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go.
So on this Labor Day weekend, I invite you to get comfortable in your seat and let me take you through a 5-minute guided meditation where we will recall the labor that brought us to this moment. So I invite you to take 3 big belly breaths, breathing in for 5 counts, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out for 5 counts, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out. Feel the seat under you. Feel the floor under your feet. Now think about what it took to create this seat, to build this floor, this building. Think about what it took to create what literally is supporting you at this very moment. To pour the concrete foundation, to build the floor. Imagine the person laying out the floor. Think about the person carrying that flooring, putting it in place piece by piece. We give thanks for this floor. We give thanks to those who labored to create this floor. Think about a factory in China. Imagine the smoke and the grit. Hear the loud clunking and churning of machines. Imagine an assembly line of 15 people long, each person affixing screws and staples and fabric to these very chairs. See the blue-gray masks affixed to cover their mouths, to filter out the smoke and chemical smells. We give thanks for these chairs. Think about the church grounds, the soil, the plants, the mulch. Think about this church building. Perhaps you have helped amend the soil, plant the plants, spread mulch. Perhaps you helped paint the church building. Feel the shovel in your hand. Remember how it feels. The rough spots where blisters or calluses might sprout if you do it for too long. We give thanks for this land. Now think about this morning. Think about the food you ate, the coffee or tea or juice you drank. How did the food get to your table? Imagine, where did it come from? Imagine, how did it travel? Who cooked it? Imagine, where did your food grow? Who harvested it? What season did it grow? How much sweat beaded down a person's brow? We give thanks for our food. We give thanks for those who labored to grow, harvest, ship, shop, and cook our food. Now imagine yourself looking in the mirror in your home that you most frequently look at yourself. Could be the bathroom mirror, a full-length mirror, a handheld mirror. Imagine looking into your own eyes. Recall who has loved you, who has wiped tears from your cheeks, who has held you when you were most afraid, who has embraced you when you were grieving, who has cooked soup for you, made dry toast, and brought ginger ale to you when you were ill, who taught you how to ride a bike, who watched you as you took your first steps and then fell on your big diapered behind, who swaddled you, rocked you, and hugged you in your first cries and hollers in this world, who has labored in love, imperfectly as it usually is, to create who you are as you look into your own eyes in front of that mirror. We give thanks for the care, the labors of love of people, the many people who made us who we are today. take another deep belly breath, breathing in for 5 and out for 5. Whose labor do you want to celebrate and honor today? So we're just going to take a few moments of silence to reflect on whose labor you want to celebrate and honor, after which I will ring our singing bowl and invite you, for those here, to speak into the space, or for those of you joining us on Zoom, to type into the chat those who you would like to celebrate, whose labor you would like to celebrate and honor this morning. The workers in the fields, the teachers, the healthcare workers. Go ahead, you don't need to be quiet. Say it out so other people can hear you.
Hotel workers and housekeepers, writers, actors, directors. Healthcare workers.
Service workers. We give thanks for all of those who labor. And now this morning we have guests joining us, Matthew Hom, who is a faith-rooted organizer for CLU, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, who's going to share with us this morning. So welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? I'm so honored to be here with you, and Reverend Matthew, thank you so much for this invitation and for your incredible and beloved community. As Reverend Matthew mentioned, my name is Matthew Hom. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm so honored to be the faith-rooted organizer in Los Angeles and Santa Monica for CLU, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. And I find the work we do to be so incredibly meaningful, coming from the Jewish faith tradition, but also rooted in social justice work. The work that we do to build community with folks of various faith traditions, various communities, and bring them into solidarity with workers of all kinds, and labor unions. It's incredibly powerful and impactful in my life, and I'm so honored to do this work. And Reverend Matthew, I really appreciate that guided reflection you just gave, because thinking about all the different labor that goes into our lives resonates with like all the different sort of kinds of workers or all the different unions I've even had the opportunity to work with in the past year and a half being in my role. So whether it's the United Farm Workers who we supported last year when they did a march through the Central Valley for an entire month to advocate for their right to organize, or the hotel workers that I'm going to talk about in a second, to healthcare workers, to sanitation workers, to the writers and actors, and so many more. doing this work really broadens my heart and mind to know how much, like, not only do we all have sort of a debt of gratitude to workers, but workers are so many of us and like part of our community. Like, I don't think there's any faith community where we can say workers are someone else who, yes, we should be in solidarity with them, but from sort of because there's some other sort of group. Absolutely from a sense of intention and solidarity, but workers are part of our communities, like this community here in Canoga Park in the San Fernando Valley. And we know that workers, in their struggles under what Reverend James Lawson, one of the founders of CLU CLU started in the 1990s, but Reverend James Lawson was a disciple of the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and is still around. Teaches at UCLA and is the emeritus pastor at Holman United Methodist Church in South LA. What he calls plantation capitalism, right? This system that forces all of us to struggle and strive in a world that really has enough for everyone, that really can be this place of affirmation. So the work we do is to connect with faith leaders, clergy, and also congregations, and get folks involved basically in worker justice campaigns, in solidarity with workers and with unions. So I want to talk to you about an amazing campaign that we're doing right now with the hotel and hospitality workers of Southern California. Of course, there's so much incredible stuff going on. You've probably heard that this is a summer of solidarity, or a hot labor summer in Southern California. It really has been, and it's going to continue, past the summer. But, we've been in there in solidarity at the picket lines for the writers and the actors and the city workers who went on that one-day strike a few weeks ago. And I actually want to sort of note that we actually we were planning to have a worker here with us to actually speak to their experiences from SEIU 721, which is the union that represents City of LA employees. But precisely because there's so much powerful work going on, unfortunately, they weren't able to join us. But I'm so honored myself to be here with you. And I know there's going to be another time when we're going to be able to have a worker here to join you in your community, because when folks of faith or folks in the beloved community can hear from workers and hear their stories, that's when it really moves you. That's when it really touches your heart. So Unite Here Local 11 is the union for hotel and hospitality workers, tourism workers, whether you're talking about housekeepers, servers and waiters, and kitchen staff at hotels. Anyone a Dodgers fan like me? If the food workers at Dodger Stadium, at SoFi Stadium, has anyone ever gotten food at LAX Airport? The workers there are represented by this union. So 30,000 workers throughout Southern California. And almost half of their members, or just over half, who work at 61 hotels, have been going on strike this summer. Has anyone heard about this? It's been this incredible campaign, the largest hotel strike in United States history. Now, I want to be really brief and with my time, but just to say, folks like housekeepers and other hotel workers who are really, including with the entertainment industry, the tourism and hospitality industry is fundamental to our economy and our culture and our identity here in Southern California. And I think we know that. But these workers are too often invisible, and not only sort of ignored by sort of the power structures, but also sort of invisible to us in our hearts and minds. But they are really what makes this city work. And so many of them had struggled even before the pandemic. But the pandemic was really a moment where almost all of Unite Here's members were basically laid off when hotels sort of shut down during the beginning of the sort of lockdown quarantine period. And they not only struggled with their families then, but these corporations have basically, because these hotels are mostly consolidated into large corporations, they have taken the opportunity to not hire back they only hired back probably half of the workers they had before, because they make more profit if they can hire fewer people to do more work. And these workers, especially these immigrant housekeeper women who are the heart of this union, who have been at some hotels for 20, 30 years, doing this backbreaking work, cleaning, like replacing mattresses, cleaning beds, cleaning all the things that people have in a hotel room every single day. They are worn out and are just considered disposable by these corporations. And so all the more so did the pandemic make us clear that we need justice for these workers. And at more than 60 hotels of 15,000 workers, their contracts expired at the end of June. And the union put forward this proposal, which was so transformative, not only for the wages and the benefits of these workers, but also like providing for affordable housing, like connecting this to housing justice, because workers are not getting paid enough to afford housing in any of our Southern California communities, and housing is not affordable. And that's, a connected issue, which I know is close to so many people's hearts. So they have been going on strike, and you guys might have seen that it's usually like a few hotels in Santa Monica for like 4 days, and then a few hotels in downtown LA for a few days. And over here in the Valley, we have the Sheraton Universal near Universal Studios, right? But they are pursuing this strategy to really win this transformative contract that they deserve, and they're asking for the support of all of our faith communities. So again, it's hard to predict when they go on strike because it's a few hotels, a few days at a time, but there's always the opportunity. Has anyone showed up at a picket line before? Does anyone have experience with that? So for those who do, feel free to talk to other people. Like, it's really a transformative experience to be able to, even when you're just walking around in a rectangle, right? To be able to connect with workers and be able to like form this community of solidarity that like tells the public, here is this moral choice you can take to be in solidarity by observing the picket or not. And so there's lots of opportunities to join workers at picket lines. Also, tomorrow is Labor Day, of course, so there's going to be a few Labor Day marches, including one for those who are like early birds, 7 a.m. at Hollywood, meeting at the W Hotel, right, I think, at Hollywood and Vine, which is being struck right now. There's going to be a march with Unite Here, and later they're going to join a march with healthcare workers. So I think later after the service and during the lunch, I'm going to sort of talk to different folks, and I'm going to have a clipboard with sort of like a sign-up sheet. And I would love for folks to share your information and to stay connected. So if you fill that out, I can both like later today send you like more information about these actions like tomorrow in the next few days, so you don't have to like remember what I said right now. But also, I will then hope to reach out in the next week or two and hope to like offer to have a conversation with folks to get to know you and your stories and what brings you to like your community and to justice work. I have been so honored to be present and be a guest at Unitarian communities already, such as the First Unitarian Church in Los Angeles and the Santa Monica Church, and now my first time being here, and so honored to be with you all. Coming from the Jewish faith tradition, seeing how you all affirm the beauty and the authenticity of so many traditions and allow folks to show up authentically to themselves, as I see beautifully reflected here, is something that really resonates with me, as well as your commitment to social justice. And I would love to stay involved with you all. And there's so much to do. There's so many issues. There's so many campaigns. There's so many like things that are competing for our time. But everything we do for justice, to build a beloved community, a better world, gets us to where we want to be. Because we know we can do it. And we know it's within our divine gift, our divine blessing, however we interpret that gives us this ability to build a just world. Speaking from my own faith tradition, there's this saying in this book called Pirkei Avot, where Rabbi Turfone said, "It is not your responsibility to complete the work, neither are you free to refrain from it." So it's not on any of us to do everything ourselves, because that's not possible, and we need to do it with each other. But also, there's room for all of us to do our part. And that really resonated with me with that song, about taking the world on your shoulders, but really leaning into the community that we have. And so I would love to get to know different folks and plug you into different campaigns, especially on this Hotel and Hospitality Workers Solidarity Campaign, as they love to say in the labor movement, si se puede, yes we can. And thank you, it's an honor to be with you.
Our song this morning, you may be familiar with the Oliver Anthony song, Richmond, North of Richmond, which is kind of a politically muddled anthem for working people that, like I said, politically muddled. And so Billy Bragg, who some of you might know as kind of the troubadour, I would say, of the working man in Britain, wrote a response called Rich Men Earning North of a Million. So Kevin Matthews is going to play it for us.
If you're selling your soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, well, nothing's gonna change if all you do is wish you could wake up and it not be true. Join a union. Fight for better pay. You better join a union, brother. Organize today. You'll see where the problem lies when the union comes around. Rich men earning north of a million want to keep the working folk down. Want to keep the working folk down. If you form a union, you will find the working folk people are all of one kind. So we ain't gonna punch down on those who need a bit of understanding and some solidarity. That ain't right, friend. If you're struggling with your health and you're putting on the pounds, doctors gives you opiates to help you get around. Well, wouldn't it be better for folks like you and me if medicine was subsidized and healthcare was free? Join a union. Fight for better pay. Come on and join a union, sister. Organize today. It comes down to the self-same thing, if you're black or white or brown. Rich men earning north of a million want to keep the working folk down. Want to keep the working folk down. Well, we know your culture wars are there to distract, while libertarian billionaires with high-paying packs. You want to talk about bathrooms while the floodwaters rise. The forest is on fire and the wind burns your eyes. Something's wrong here. Well, they want to divide us because together we're strong. Are you gonna take action now you've sung your damn song? And if you don't like the rich men having total control, you better get the union to roll. Join a union. Fight for better pay. Come on and join a union. Organize today. Don't matter if you live in the city or some little country town. Rich men earning north of a million. Rich men earning north of a million. Rich men earning north of a million. Want to keep the working folk down. Want to keep the working folk down. If you're selling your soul and you're working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, join a union.
So today's service is a celebration of labor, and work, and it's important that we do that. And it's also true that hard work has come to take on kind of an almost like mythic quality in American life. And so much of this is rooted in what the German sociologist Max Weber called the Protestant work ethic. And so, to give a little background on this, during the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther and John Calvin argued that our work was a calling from God. And Calvin taught predestination, that God has already decided whether you're going to go to heaven or hell. But the idea that one's eternal fate was already sealed when you were born felt uncomfortable to people. So Protestants started thinking, well, material success in this world must be a sign that you were one of the saved, which ultimately transformed into a belief that success was a path to salvation and that hard work would bring us rewards in this life and the next. And this is part of the history of our Unitarian and Universalist tradition too. Even though they rejected predestination centuries ago, that Protestant work ethic is still woven into the fabric of religions that so many of us were raised in. Think about idle hands are the devil's playthings. And even if it wasn't part of your religious upbringing, it has been deeply woven into the fabric of American culture and intertwined with capitalism. For a factory owner, what better message is there for his workers to hear than to work hard is to be virtuous? And over time, the economy and productivity have come to be valued above all else. But the economy should work for us. We shouldn't be working for the economy. Now, none of this is to say that hard work is inherently bad and that we don't derive meaning and satisfaction from our work. But I think our Calvinist forebears got it wrong. Being more productive did not make them more holy, more virtuous, more worthy. I want to take us back to the very first story in the Bible. For the first 6 days, God works to create the heavens and the earth and the waters and the land and the plants and the animals. And God calls each of these creations good. And at the end of this sixth day, God looks around at everything that's been created and calls it very good. But on the seventh day, God rests from all the work of creating. And it is the seventh day, that day of rest, which God blesses and makes holy. God's work is good, very good even, but rest is holy. And that's what workers are fighting for, is rest. It's labor unions that brought us the 8-hour workday. There is a song, 8 Hours, that they sang, back in the late 1800s as an anthem for what they were asking for. And the chorus was, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. So that was what they were pushing for. I don't think I got the tune right, but the words are what's important. And so unions have been fought for that and won that right among many more. And a lot of those wins, which you can see here in this poster by Ricardo Levins Morales, brought a lot of these wins are in service to rest. The 8-hour workday, the weekend, paid vacations, sick leave, and parental leave. Pensions, too, also mean the possibility to retire and rest after a long life of laboring. So those who are too old to work and too young to die, as the saying goes, are cared for. And was a rallying cry for adequate benefits for those who had worked their whole lives. And one of the big pushes recently has been towards a shorter work week. Yet again, the United Auto Workers, who have just authorized a strike, which could be a massive one, are calling not just for better pay and benefits, but also specifically for a 32-hour, 4-day work week. And in some ways, I think it's overdue. And in fact, at the time, Vice President Richard Nixon suggested in 1956 that he thought it was only a matter of time until we moved to a 4-day work week as part of an increased standard of living. And this is Richard Nixon, not exactly someone thinks about caring for the worker, but he could see that based on the gains of the labor movement in the years preceding that was the way we were heading. So I agree with Richard Nixon that it is long overdue. And especially because over time, workers have become increasingly productive with their time over the past several decades in particular. And shouldn't that benefit of increased productivity be passed on to the workers rather than the capitalists? Who should control that labor? And so this is just another fight in the struggle for better working conditions that have been won for all workers, even those who don't belong to unions, some rights more than others. And if we think about the workers who are striking right now, it's actually people who are helping to make sure that we can rest. Hotel workers, literally facilitating taking vacations. The writers and screen actors who create works of entertainment for our leisure time. And indeed, another form of leisure, I guess some might consider, that I didn't think I would ever be talking about in a church, but the dancers at the Star Garden Topless Dive Bar in North Hollywood, which is the only union of dancers, exotic dancers, anywhere in the country. And so that's right here. They're part of the stage act. I'm forgetting the acronym, but they just signed a contract after over a year of organizing earlier this year, because everyone deserves safe working conditions, which is what they in particular were working for. And so I think all of us deserve that opportunity for rest and downtime, and for our labor to be fairly compensated. And so this weekend, as we celebrate labor and also the opportunity to rest from it, take the time to breathe and relax and do the simple things that you love without having to feel guilty about it. Give yourself permission to let go of the shoulds. You get to define what time well spent is, what that means to you in your own life and on your own time. Take a Sabbath when you need to, remembering that rest is holy. And remember those countless workers who fought to make it possible. A couple quick announcements. Next Sunday is our water communion, which is our annual kind of kickoff of the church year. It's our Ingathering service. And so I invite you to bring a small container of water from someplace that is meaningful to you. It could be someplace you traveled, an ocean, a river. It could be water from home. It could be water from the rains that we have unexpectedly been graced with this summer, and including for those of you who are joining online. And then just quickly on the topic of rest, we have a weekend retreat at Camp de Benneville Pines coming up at the end of the month. It is a wonderful place to relax and engage in fun activities. You can see archery and canoeing, but like games and just sitting around and having conversations, puzzles, some great worship. It's a wonderful opportunity for rest up in a gorgeous location near Big Bear, up in the San Bernardino Mountains. So there's information on our website and in our e-blast, or you can follow that link. So we're going to close by singing our closing hymn, Step by Step, The Longest March. It's number 157 in your gray hymnals. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and we're just going to sing it one time through.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn to milk, singly none, singly none.
I invite you to reach out and take the hand of someone nearby you. As we extinguish our chalice, you can also touch, bump elbows or touch a shoulder. Put your hand on a shoulder if that feels comfortable. To those of you who are joining us on Zoom, I invite you to send out your energy to us as we send our energy back to you. As we go forth on this Labor Day weekend, may we remember to honor and celebrate the hard work of our hands and our minds, and also to take time to rest from it. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.